Have you ever seen something that just shouldn't be possible? Something that makes you stop and question everything you think you know? Well, today we're cracking open the case files on 3 phenomena, all caught on camera, that did exactly that. We're going to follow the evidence, explore the wild theories, and see if we can uncover the truth that might be hiding right in front of us. I mean, that's the big question, right? When you have actual footage of something that seems to defy all logic, what do you do? Do you just write it off, or do you start digging? That's what we're doing today. And we have 3 incredible cases for you, starting with what looks like a tear in the very fabric of our universe. First up, we're going to look at a video from a bedroom in England. A woman woke up one morning and found an entire upside-down world projected onto her wall. So, was it some kind of portal? A peek into a parallel universe? Then, we're jetting off to a truly mysterious lake in Tanzania, where animals are being found perfectly preserved, almost like they were turned to stone in the blink of an eye. Could it be the work of some local demon, or is it a natural phenomenon that's just as chilling? And for our grand finale, we are digging into the most persistent mystery of them all, a small house in Spain where human faces have been appearing and disappearing from a concrete floor for over 50 years. All right, let's dive into our first case file. Back in 2019, a woman in a town called Weston-super-Mare in England recorded something in her bedroom that just seemed to break the laws of physics. Yeah, those are her actual words, and you can totally feel the shock and confusion in her voice. Imagine this. You wake up, and there on your wall is a crystal clear, moving, upside-down image of the houses across the street. And here's the kicker that makes it so bizarre. This was happening in the middle of the day, with her curtains almost completely shut. As you can imagine, the internet just exploded. One of the biggest theories floating around was that this was a glimpse into another dimension. You know, this idea kind of loosely based on string theory, that there could be other universes stacked right alongside our own. But, a real physicist pointed out that if a wormhole actually opened up in your bedroom, the energy would be so immense, it would just suck the entire room into it. So, yeah, we can probably rule that one out. So if it wasn't a portal to another dimension, what in the world was it? The investigation was basically a process of elimination. First off, it definitely wasn't CGI. You can see her hand casting a real shadow on the image, which proves it's a real projection. And it couldn't have been a digital projector. The layout of the room makes that impossible. The real key to solving this whole thing came down to one tiny detail, a little rectangular hole in her curtain. And that tiny hole, well, that's the solution. That little gap turned her entire bedroom into a giant, room-sized pinhole camera. It's a phenomenon called camera obscura. The bright light from outside streamed through that tiny opening into the dark room, and it projected a perfect, naturally upside-down image onto the opposite wall. So it wasn't sorcery after all, just a really beautiful accident of physics. So case number 1 had a perfectly logical, even kind of cool scientific answer. But our next case, well, this one takes us from a quiet bedroom to the deadly shores of a lake in Tanzania, where the explanation is a lot more chilling. And the images? Well, they are hauntingly real. When these photos first hit the internet, they went absolutely viral. And you can see why, right? They are just unsettling. You've got a songbird perched on a branch, a flamingo just floating there, all perfectly preserved, looking like they were flash frozen in an instant. It's somehow both beautiful and deeply, deeply creepy. The pictures are so bizarre you can't help but think, is this something supernatural? Local legends there talk about a creature called the Popobawa, which is said to be a bat-like demon that paralyzes its victims. Could this be its handiwork? Well, while it's a terrifying story, the legends usually say the Popobawa preys on people, not animals. The real truth, as it turns out, isn't in folklore. It's in the chemistry of the lake itself. So when scientists actually looked at the water in Lake Natron, they found something wild. The lake is fed by runoff from nearby volcanoes, and that runoff is loaded with a chemical compound called natron. The intense sun evaporates the water, which makes this compound super concentrated. This creates this caustic, alkaline soup with a pH of up to 10.5. To put that in perspective, that's almost as harsh as ammonia. You would not want to go for a swim in there. And that super alkaline water, that's the secret sauce. It acts as a fantastic natural preservative. So when birds or bats or other animals tragically die in or near the lake, the water essentially mummifies them. It's not petrification, where they turn to stone. It's more like a natural embalming process, coating their bodies in a layer of sodium bicarbonate. But wait, there's a twist. Because the chemistry explains why the animals were preserved, but it doesn't explain how they ended up in such perfect, lifelike poses. Well, the photographer later revealed the final piece of the puzzle. He found the mummified creatures washed up on the shore, and then he artfully posed them, creating these incredible, haunting scenes. So the mystery was this amazing combination of extreme nature and human artistry. Okay, so we've solved two mysteries, but this last case file, this one's different. We're heading to Belmez, Spain for a mystery that has baffled experts for decades. And unlike our other cases, this one, to this day, is still officially unsolved. The timeline here is what makes this whole story so unnerving. So get this, it all kicks off in 1971. A woman named Maria Gomez Camara finds a face just appearing on her kitchen floor. Her husband smashes the floor and pours new concrete. A week later, the face is back. Soon, more faces show up, and their expressions actually seem to change. Then, investigators find out the house was built over a forgotten cemetery from the 1800s. And even after Maria passed away in 2004, people say the faces are still appearing. All right, so what could possibly be going on here? There are really two main theories. The first is something called pareidolia. That's our brain's tendency to see faces in random patterns like in clouds or toast. But that doesn't really explain why the same faces would reappear after the floor was totally replaced. The other theory is that it was all a very clever hoax, maybe using a chemical agent like bleach that could create the image and then just evaporate, leaving no trace. But here is where things get really, really strange for the investigators. For decades, they've run all sorts of tests, and they've all led to dead ends. Sophisticated scans found zero traces of paint or any other materials. More recent tests couldn't find any evidence of bleach. And through all of it, for 50 years, the family has sworn it was not a hoax, and they never seemed to make any real money from it. And so here we are. After more than 50 years of poking and prodding and testing, the official verdict is just as unsettling as the faces themselves. It's an unexplained phenomenon. For now, this is one mystery that science simply can't seem to solve. So, after digging into these three very different cases, what's the big takeaway? I think the main lesson here is that what our eyes or our cameras see isn't always the whole story. Each case had a completely different answer. The bedroom portal, that was just a beautiful trick of the light, explained by some simple, elegant physics. The lake of stone, a wild mix of extreme natural chemistry and a bit of human creativity. And the faces in the floor, well, that's the one that still keeps people up at night. A true mystery where every scientific investigation so far has hit a wall.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Our world is absolutely full of mysteries. Some, like that portal in the bedroom, probably have simple, amazing answers just waiting to be discovered. Others, well, they might just defy explanation forever. The real question is, what's out there waiting for you to find it?